I tried making pasta with a cream sauce. It's homemade, so please enjoy it while it's still warm." The dish she served had a horrible odor. It didn't smell good at all, so I hesitated to take a bite. "Aren't you going to eat it? Don't you like my cooking? Are you just trying to hassle me?" I was baffled by Holly, who seemed intent on making me the bad guy. When Holly left her seat, I stealthily switched my plate with that of my son, Aiden. I hoped that my concerns would be unfounded. As I handed my plate over, while praying, Aiden took a big bite without hesitation. However, Aiden foamed at the mouth and collapsed backwards as soon as he ate it. "Aiden, why did he collapse? What happened?" I realized that Holly had intentionally tampered with my plate before she could fake confusion. Seeing Holly's reaction, I decided to get back at her. "My name is Susan. I turned 62 this year. When Aiden got married, it was just me and my husband left in a quiet house. I missed the noise. One day, as we were chatting about his married life, Aiden suddenly looked troubled and brought up a topic. The truth is, my wife's cooking isn't very good." "What are you talking about? Just be grateful you're being cooked for." "I really am, but I just can't eat it." At first, I scolded Aiden for complaining about someone's homemade food, but Aiden had always been a child who ate everything without being picky. Even as an adult, he enjoyed eating, so it was strange for him to say that. "Well then, come and have dinner with us sometime." "Really? Thank you, Mom." Seeing his face brighten, I thought spending time together occasionally wouldn't be a bad idea. I made a casual offer, hoping to get along well with Aiden's wife, Holly. However, Holly's actions turned out to be far beyond my imagination and utterly outrageous. A few days after talking to Aiden, the couple came to our house for dinner. My husband and I enjoyed a lively time with our guests at the dinner table without any particular incidents. "I hope it suits your taste, Holly." "It's delicious." "I'm glad. Thank you." Aiden always told me how delicious his mom's cooking is. I'm jealous of having such a skilled cook as a mother. I couldn't help but blush at Holly's words. Continuing, Holly said, "I also made a dish for you as a gift." She then placed a large container in the middle of the dining table. "Holly, what on earth did you make for us?" "It's a French dish called quiche. Don't you know it?" Saying it confidently, Holly opened the container and showed us the contents. What was inside looked like a cross between an omelet and a pie, but it emitted a terrible smell as soon as it was opened, making me involuntarily grimace. The surface was burnt and the inside was a gooey, undercooked dough with a fishy smell. "You just mix the dough and bake it, so it's easy to make." "Is that so? Should we heat it up again?" "It's delicious even when it's cold, so it's fine." I had no choice but to try the dish, so I timidly picked up my chopsticks. The undercooked, powdery dough that hadn't mixed well made me hesitate. My husband, who was watching, put down his chopsticks without taking a single bite. Aiden also remained silent and didn't attempt to eat it. For some reason, Holly didn't try it either. "Mother-in-law, aren't you eating it?" "I'm sorry, but I feel like it's a bit undercooked. Can we go ahead and reheat it?" Holly frowned at my reaction and sighed. I tried to choose my words carefully, but it seemed that Holly was still uncomfortable. "Never mind." She slammed the container on the table. "I didn't think I'd be treated like this just for bringing a dish. Do you think you can do anything just because you're good at cooking?" "Holly, calm down. Before you complain to Mom, don't you think you should try it yourself? It's easy to make, so I don't need to taste it. Why aren't you eating it either?" How can you serve food to people without tasting it yourself? Just try it." Although I didn't mean any harm, I was the one who had been rude. I tried to smooth things over while calming their argument, but Holly remained angry and left. Aiden apologized and left to follow her. In the silent dining room, I held my head in my hands. At this rate, she'll think I'm giving her a hard time. I sighed as I looked at my husband. Looking at the leftover container, I wondered what to do. I'm not cocky about being a good cook, I'm just average. I worry about finding a peaceful resolution. I could tell Aiden to cook for himself, but it might hurt Holly's pride. Although he's my son, I shouldn't interfere in their household. After discussing it with my husband, we decided not to get involved too much. But since then, Holly started coming to our house frequently for some reason. "Mother-in-law, will you please make lunch? And please put dinner for Aiden in a container to take home." The next day, Holly came alone without Aiden. Holly suddenly spread empty containers on the table and asked me to make lunch and dinner for her and Aiden. Surprised by the sudden visit, I asked her if something had happened. "Aiden seems to prefer your cooking, so I thought I'd ask you to make our meals from now on." "That's a problem. Holly, why don't we cook together?" "No, you're just going to make that disgusted face again." "You're just giving me a hard time." I was at a loss for words when she said that so decisively. Even if I say I don't mean it that way, she wouldn't listen. She had labeled me a terrible mother-in-law. Although cooking isn't too much trouble, it's unbearable to do it every day for a daughter-in-law who dislikes me this much. I thought about teaching her some simple dishes, but she wouldn't agree to that either. "You're good at cooking, so just make it for us. And please, take care of tomorrow's meal too." Despite trying to persuade her, she only became more brazen day by day. On days when I refused, she apparently bought prepared food at the grocery store. Aiden seemed to be fine with eating that and didn't comment on it, so Holly started to complain about him eating at our place. "Aiden was spoiled by you, wasn't he? He just gobbles up store-bought food." "He's always loved eating since he was young. But he hardly eats any of my cooking. He's just trying to hurt my feelings." "Well, I'm not sure about that." Holly started coming to our house almost every day at lunchtime, relying on us for her own meals and Aiden's dinner. Eventually, she demanded that I make Aiden's lunch and deliver it in the morning, which left me extremely troubled. I talked to Aiden, asking him to do something about Holly coming to our house too much, but instead, he started giving me money for their meals to avoid her cooking. If you're going to pay that much money, why not have Holly learn to cook? I told her, but Holly says it hurts her feelings and won't listen. In the end, another conflict arose between the two when Holly found out Aiden was giving me money for food expenses. "Why are you paying your mother? Is this supposed to be an allowance? I didn't hear anything about this." "It's because you're making my mom cook for us. What's wrong with paying for our food?" "It's because you don't eat my cooking. It can't be helped." After that, we tried several times to discuss the situation with Holly, but no matter how much we tried to persuade her, she would not be convinced. She wouldn't listen, insisting that not eating her cooking was harassment and that we were trying to put her down together. Eventually, I decided not to cook for the two anymore, which seemed to settle the issue, though Holly still didn't agree. I didn't want to get involved anymore, so I had no choice but to ask them to discuss and resolve the issue themselves. About 2 or 3 weeks after the discussion, Holly came to our house again on a calm afternoon. I tensed up and greeted her at the entrance, but that day Aiden was with her. "I want you to teach me how to cook." She finally agreed to listen to reason. "Please, just this once." "Well, if that's the case, I'll help her." I was relieved. thinking that the discussion had led to a positive resolution and led them to the kitchen. Holly said she had brought her own ingredients and seemed more motivated than before. However, for some reason, she kicked me out of the kitchen when I tried to help. Not only me, but Aiden was also kicked out of the room for some reason. We exchanged worried glances, but Holly said, "I can't concentrate if I'm not alone," and refused to listen. As we anxiously waited, we were called back into the living room after just a few minutes. Holly served us pasta that she had made in the kitchen. It seemed too short a time for pasta to be cooked, so I tried to go to the kitchen to check, but Holly stopped me. "Mother-in-law, what's wrong? Here, try it while it's warm." Is everything okay? Did you find the pots and everything?" "Everything was fine, so please, just try my homemade pasta while it's still warm." The pasta with cream sauce that Holly served didn't look as bad as before. However, when I mixed it with a fork, I could clearly see foreign objects in the white sauce. At first it looked like the remnants of a roux, but it had an unusual smell, like an air freshener. Aiden, who hesitantly tried it next to me, exclaimed with a surprised face, "It's delicious," and seemed moved. "Wow, it's good. Holly, you've learned to make this kind of food." "I always cook properly. Look, even my mother-in-law. There's no way she wouldn't eat it." "Mom, it's fine. It's just a normal pasta." Although Holly would usually be furious and yell at Aiden's rude comment, she didn't seem to care and just urged me to eat quickly. However, the more I mixed it, the stronger the strange smell got, making me hesitate. "Why won't you eat it?" "So my mother-in-law just wanted to mess with me, right?" "That's not true, it's just that..." At that moment, a ringtone sounded from Holly's bag. It seemed she received a phone call, and Holly hurriedly left the table and went outside the room. I took the opportunity to ask Aiden to secretly exchange the pasta. Aiden happily started eating it as a second serving, but the next moment he flipped backward and collapsed, foaming at the mouth. I couldn't help but scream. "What happened? Why did Aiden collapse?" Hearing my scream, Holly returned and rushed to Aiden's side. While I called for an ambulance, Holly looked very confused and asked, "What happened to Aiden?" Aiden was taken to the hospital and had his stomach pumped. My husband and I, who had heard the news and joined me, finally sighed with relief as we saw Aiden lying on the hospital bed. However, Holly asked Aiden why before we could express our concern, just as she had when he collapsed. "Hey, why did Aiden collapse? How come?" "Holly, please calm down." "It should have been you. Did you force Aiden to eat it?" "What on earth are you talking about? Holly, what did you do?" My husband and I tried to get answers from Holly, who kept accusing me and said the most outrageous thing. "You insulted my cooking, so I thought I'd get back at you." Get back at me? It's also my mother-in-law's fault that Aiden won't eat my cooking. Aiden has always been on her side. Neither Aiden nor I had any intention of doing that, but I guess we did hurt your feelings. Yes, you did. That's why I thought everything would be peaceful if my mother-in-law wasn't around. It seemed that Holly had indeed put something foreign in the pasta she served me. The white residue turned out to be detergent, and luckily no serious harm was done. However, if things had gone wrong, Aiden might have ended up in more serious a condition. Aiden should have noticed the strong smell, but I couldn't help but intervene when the situation went beyond the dimension of being good or bad at cooking. If you're saying it would be better if I wasn't around, then all you needed to do was try harder at cooking. But if you were still alive, Aiden would always be on your side, wouldn't he? Seeing Holly's unapologetic and unreflective attitude, I dropped my shoulders in disappointment. My husband also quietly shook his head at her childish rebuttal, which showed she didn't even understand the gravity of what she had done. That's enough, Holly. I'd like to have a talk with your parents as well. What? Why? My parents have nothing to do with this. Because talking to you won't get us anywhere. After Aiden's safe recovery and discharge from the hospital, we decided to have a discussion involving Holly's parents. Although Holly was very reluctant until the last minute, I called her parents first to explain the situation and arranged a meeting. I deeply apologize for the tremendous trouble our daughter has caused you. Oh no, it's something my mother needs to apologize for. That's right, it's my mother-in-law who should be apologizing. Every time Holly spoke up, her mother, Kate, sternly glared at her and made her bow her head. Kate's strict attitude throughout the discussion made me wonder about Holly's behavior. We'll make her pay for the medical expenses. If there's anything else she can do to make amends, please let us know. Stop it, I'm not paying any money. Holly, can you tell me why you did such a thing? Like I said at the hospital, it's because Aiden only ever takes your side. Holly still insisted that I was provoking Aiden to mock her cooking. She continued to blame me even for the circumstances that led me to taking over cooking duties. Unable to bear her attitude any longer, I showed a certain photograph to Kate. What is this? This is a dish Holly brought to our house. She says it's called quiche. You served such a terrible thing to someone else? Kate, trembling, stared at Holly and began to scold her harshly as she tried to make excuses. Holly had no choice but to hang her head in silence as the lecture continued without giving us a chance to intervene. In the end, Holly admitted to everything. She thought that if Aiden kept siding with me, she would ultimately have to take care of me, so she believed that if she could get me hospitalized, she wouldn't have to do so. The absurd leap in logic made my head spin. I'm sorry, but I can't continue our married life after being subjected to something like this. Why not? It's not my fault. You shouldn't have taken your mother's side. You be quiet. You could be turned over to the police for this. Hearing the word police, Holly turned pale once again. Although there was some trouble regarding compensation and hospital fees, Kate promised to make Holly pay, and the situation didn't escalate any further. Although Holly acted like a child for a while, she seemed to be feeling down after Aiden told her, I can't be with you anymore. I later learned that Holly's parents, who she said she didn't get along with, were actually professional chefs. Holly, who wanted to cook freely, had been severely scolded by her parents for her unorthodox ideas and apparently started cooking however she liked after getting married. Aiden told me that her parents were furious with her for trying to demean someone for her cooking, especially her father, whom we didn't meet during the discussion, was said to be furious and now was taking her through a so-called bridal training where she was being taught the basics of cooking at her parents' home. This made me realize I needed to teach my son how to do basic household chores as well. Aiden, while appreciating the privilege of having someone cook for him, has started making simple dishes on his own. He asked me to teach him how to cook and sometimes comes to our house to cook meals together. For some reason, my husband also became interested in cooking, and the three of us enjoy cooking together, or sometimes I let the two of them handle the cooking while I relax.